NASCAR driver Kurt Busch in the pit lane as we get to 10 p.m. local time, 7 hours of the 2019 Le Mans 24 hours under our belt. We've nearly broken the back of this. We're into the final 16 hours and 59 minutes. And the race continues in GTE, in Pro, and also in AM. We're watching the battle between Kessel Racing's number 83 car driven by Rahel Frey, closing in on Vincent Abril in the 78 Pro, rather passing Mike Wainwright in the 86 Gulf Racing Porsche. But then we're looking back to the front of the GTE Pro field, where Porsche is being chased by Ferrari and Corvette. Kevin Estre, Alessandro Pierguidi and Antonio Garcia. And Peter Dumbreck, the battle out front, the number 7 Toyota, Jose Maria Lopez stopped ahead. Let's hear for what they've got to say.
Okay, Jose, you're doing well. Continue like this, third stint. Just keep me updated on the tires so to know when we have to switch to another set onto the soft flow temp. Okay, yeah, the tire process, like they were getting better. Now I was feeling more confident with the front. I need help in turn 5. Okay, on turn 5, the only thing you can do is brake balance, going forward.
Well, that was the engineer talking to Pechito, Jose Maria Lopez. That was the first word that you didn't understand in that sentence. Pechito, you're doing well. And Alan McNish, as the temperature comes down, it makes it a little easier to keep the tyre alive on the hybrid car, it seems.
Yeah, it does in comparison to a normally aspirated non-hybrid car, because you're boosting through the front and recuperating, so you're putting more energy into the front tyre. It was the S's, they're now calling it turn numbers, but the S's down the hill after Dunlop is turn 5, and that's historically where the rear is quite unstable going in there. And therefore the engineer was saying basically all you can do, and they've got a multitude of things you can do, but all you can really do there at the moment, they're maxed out, it seems, on everything else, but push the brake balance forward, and that will help to stabilize a little bit the rear. Alternatively, you brake a little bit lighter or come off the brake a bit early and let the car roll the speed in. It's a bit of fire out of the exhaust of the SMP.
Style.
Sorry?
Jackie Stewart style.
Well, we all had a little bit of the Jackie Stewart.
We all had our lessons, and that's what I was taught that, yep. Try and roll the speed in.
And it still works. It worked in the 60s and the 70s, and it still works. Cars haven't changed that much. This is Sergei Sorokin staying in. Little bit of overrich unburnt fuel on the limiter, coming in and catching light in the pipes. That won't be an issue. He's third place overall, as you can see, also in LMP1. Those are the red indicator lights. 1 on Lopez, number 7 Toyota, 2 on Nakajima's number 8, 3 on Sorokin's car. Michele Alishin stopped last time round in the 11. He stayed in, and Sorokin stayed in 17. No tyre changes there either. They are limited on the numbers that they can use. Looking back from the 7th place Porsche to the 8th place Ferrari, Jimmy Bruni, ex-Ferrari, versus Davide Rigon, current Ferrari driver. So good little battles shaping up all the way down the order.
Rigon actually caught Bruni by 3 seconds on that last lap, whether it was traffic or what, I don't know, but yeah, Rigon has got the bit between his teeth.
And they are trying to chase down Nick Tandy. Tandy is 6.5 seconds ahead of them. He's in 6th place in the 93 Porsche, but then a minute ahead of him are the top 5. The top 5 are covered by just under 12.5 seconds. Lead change, when 8 ahead of 7. Did Lopez accidentally slow down a bit somewhere, because he was 3.5, 4.5 seconds in front
up the road. He's 5.5 seconds.
Well, it didn't even happen in the pit lane. They obviously waited till the cameras cut away to the GTE Pro battle and went, they're not looking, slow down.
Yeah, but there's nothing in the first 2 sectors, so it's been on the previous lap somewhere that it's happened, because the first 2 sectors, they're basically equal to each other.
Little lock-up from the RLRM Sport car. Norman Nato in the orange and black car, 18th overall, 24th place. Overall, rather, 18th in LMP2. There he is, coming under the camera.
Last radio communication from Toyota to Lopez was, of course, the car's getting a little bit loose, and they were advising him to put the brakes forward.
Lopez goes all the way around the GT cars. I thought he was going to end up in the Dunlop curve gravel. He didn't, because he's got the traction, but he went straight on at the chicane. Yeah,
he's also gone into the last sector because he was 7 seconds slower in the final sector of the previous lap. That's why we couldn't see it at the time, because they hadn't finished the final sector. So it's from basically Arnage through Porsche curves area, where he has dropped 7 seconds in total, and is now dropped back into second place behind Nakajima.
Well, the only thing that might have happened, and you wouldn't think it from the radio conversation we had at the beginning of the last lap with Lopez, who was fine, everything was good and dandy, but having watched him go off at the Dunlop Bridge, maybe he did go off somewhere late on in that final sector.
Right, he's something, because he's 9 seconds slower on the previous lap. And
maybe
he had an advantage, and now he's got a disadvantage. And then he's also gone off at the Dunlop chicane, as you said, on the next lap, which being this one.
But he can't have overused energy so much that he needed to slow down in one sector by 9 seconds.
No, because what it does is it's got reduction, automatic reductions, and then it's got an automatic cut, but that cut would come towards the end of the lap at the line.
Yeah. Well, that would be in the final sector.
Okay, copy.
Anyone?
No, it's nothing to do with energy. It's to do with going off the track or having a problem.
Yeah.
Here we've got...
What have we got? This is down at Mulsanne corner. Little lock-up from Pachito straight off.
Into the gravel. That's it. Locked to right front for a split second. So that was enough.
He's put the brakes forward. He's put the brakes forward, hasn't he? He was told to do it, and that was the outcome.
Yeah, he was worrying about the front tyre, front tyres, and unfortunately, it's on incidents like that that races change their flavour for you, isn't it, Alan? You've been in a situation so often where you know going in that one incident will make the difference between you and an equally well-matched sister car.
Yeah, it's you know, this race is won by the least amount of incidents. Not whether you have one or not, because you know something's going to happen in the 24 hours. It's how little incidents you have, and trying to protect on those particular situations. But just one thing, it has gone forward on the brake balance, but they can do it specifically for one corner or another. So they can block it so that it only is at turn 5 or turn 7 or turn 9. And so you could have it where you've actually pushed the brake balance forward for the S's, but you then have it more rearward for Mulsanne corner. But remember, it's recuperating a lot of energy at that point into the corner as well, and so he's obviously snatched it, but he's not seemed to have lost too much, because he stayed on that lap 2 seconds off the back of Nakajima, so he's able to hold on to Nakajima now.
He got very hot up behind Nakajima in the forward chicane, because Nakajima was behind a couple of LMP2 cars, so he might just have closed a fraction. They're only a second apart at the line. Now, before you came back on air, Alan, we heard Lopez explaining to his engineer why he had passed the number 8 car in traffic. Number 8 car got held up. That's why I passed him. And the engineer said, yep, that's okay, that's okay. So he was apologizing for having passed the number 8 car.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it was probably how it was passed as opposed to the passing. I'm not sure. I've just been with Alex Wirtz, funnily enough, who is one of the advisors within the team, and basically has to deal with the driver side of things. And I don't think there's a team order as such, but the team orders will be that you basically, unless there is a problem, that you don't necessarily attack the sister car, because they don't have to. You know, they're so much quicker than anything else at the moment.
But the problem is the number 7 car can't become drivers' champions if they don't beat number 8, and a lot of other cars don't either.
I know. But do remember, there's 17 hours to go.
Yeah.
And that means there's a lot of opportunity for the cars to switch back. And, you know, in that respect, it's already happened with Nakajima back into the lead by default.
Yeah, granted. So Kazuki Nakajima leads from Jose Maria Lopez. Battle for 8th place in the LMP2 category. Just into our 7 of the race. Alex Brundle holding off the TDS car of Mathieu Vazivière.
Sorry, just to say, the other person I bumped into on the way back to the booth was Mike Conway. And he went off like a scalded cat at the beginning of this race. And I said, so? And he said it was fantastic. Said everything just clicked for him, and off he went. He had a brilliant triple stint, pulling away in the first stint 2 seconds a lap over Sebastian Buemi, and had a 40-second lead. And those are the sort of stints that you'll flavour and just love as a driver. And hopefully that just continues every time you get back in the car. But I think the sister cars maybe got something to say about that.
Yeah, probably so. 22 United Autosports in 6th position. This is the 32 car of Alex Brundle. Felipe Albuquerque is 6th, Alex Brundle in 8th. And right behind him, Mathieu Vazivière. So you've got a Ligier on Michelin tyres with Brundle and an Orica on Dunlop tyres with Vazivière. Last time round, the Michelin-shod Ligier did a 3:33.3 and a 3:33.4 for Vazivière. So they've been together then for some little while. Jakub Śmiechowski, by the way, in the Inter-Europol number 34 LMP2 car, who's just a few spots behind this. His rear lights are not working. The team being told to bring them in and fix them, or bring him in and fix them.
So looking at the gap, we saw a couple of laps ago, Jean-Eric Verne passing Negrão, and we've also got the Porsche number 92 in just now.
Just saw it on the timing screen. I was about to say the top 2 in GTE Pro are in the pits. This is Kevin Estre. Antonio Garcia is in as well. Having followed in AF Corsa's 3rd place Ferrari of Alessandro Pierguidi, the 4th place 67 Ford of Harry Tincknell, and the 6th place Ford of Ryan Briscoe. Nick Tandy in the 93 car. That's the Porsche is in 5th and yet to stop, and I think he'll be in this lap. So 92.
Perhaps we can get Alan to check how many laps the 92 car did that time, whether they're still making 1 lap per stint on the Ferrari or not. They certainly stopped later that time.
92.
Sorry.
Here is the remaining Corvette.
Sorry.
92 is on its way because, as we documented about 20 minutes ago, officially the 64 Corvette is abandon. It has been withdrawn from the race by the team. We also heard in the last hour that Matteo Cairoli will not take over the Dempsey Proton 88 car. Satoshi Hoshino is not comfortable with driving any longer, and so the 88 car has been or will be withdrawn. 67 up the inside. Harry Tincknell puts the moves in on Antonio Garcia as he comes out of the pits, but Harry owes us a pit stop. So right now he's passing. Oh no, hang a minute, Tincknell's made 8 stops. They've had a penalty, haven't they? That's why he's made 8 stops. So he does owe us a pit stop. So does Nick Tandy, so does Ryan Briscoe, so does Davide Rigon, Jimmy Bruni, old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. Kevin Estre leads, Alessandro Pierguidi 2nd, Harry Tincknell up to 3rd, ahead of Antonio Garcia. But Tincknell is the odd one out there because he owes us a pit stop that the lead 4 have all had.
So yeah, we just checked the laps, and it does seem to be that the Porsche is able to maybe eke 1 extra lap out over the Ferrari. So obviously by the end of the race, we're talking 1 less stint, and that could be their strategy. Are
they getting a lap every stint, or was that 1 lap in a sort of triple? Because if it's a lap every stint, that is a big advantage.
Yeah, I think they're trying to stretch it. Look, if you get a lap, full course yellow again.
Yeah. Now, what's that for? Who's gone off? Who are we missing?
Hold on a second.
No one has stopped. 31 is in, so this is big time gains potentially for the 31 Dragon Speed car of Anthony Davidson. And as we heard a little earlier from Elton Julian when he was chatting to Duncan, all the bad luck has befallen the number 10 Dallara. That's what happened to Jose Maria. No, that can't have been the original one. He went off at Mulsanne Corner. He's almost gone off into the gravel there at Indianapolis. Was that because he was hitting the limiter trying to get down to 80 Ks? No, can't be.
No, usually not there, no.
Yeah, but whenever full course yellow breaks out, you've got to hit the limiter. That just looked like he got in a bit deep, exactly as he'd done in Mulsanne Corner 2 or 3 laps ago.
And Dunlop chicane.
Yeah. Let's get down to the pit lane. Louise is with Patrick Dempsey.
I certainly am with Patrick Dempsey. It's lovely to see you here. It's not so lovely to see the 88 parked up.
No, that's not where we want to see that car. Unfortunately, we're out with a bent steering arm, and it's been really a tough race for them. They had a great qualifying, a lot of potential. It's just the 88 car is having it's a struggle. 77 cars doing well. We're back in the fight. We got a long way to go, and we'll see where we end up.
Are you pleased to be back for another Le Mans?
Oh yeah, I love it here. I mean, even with all of the drama, all of it, I really love it, and I love this race. It just is very moving to me, very emotional place.
Well, it's lovely to see you here, and hopefully I'll speak to you later.
I hope so too.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. Well, they've still got one dog in the fight. They lost the 99 car that they were running for Tracy Crone and Nick Johnson after free practice. They lost the 88 car because Satoshi Hoshino, Matteo Cairoli was saying, no longer felt that he was safe in the car, particularly after that incident with full course yellow comes to an end as we go green again, particularly with the incident with the 64 Corvette, where he rather closed the door, I'm afraid, on the 64 car, put them out of the race on Marcel Fessler in the Porsche Curves. But they've still got the 77 car, and that car with Matt Campbell aboard is in 4th position. Harry Tincknell and Antonio Garcia, the battle between Ford and Corvette. Ford versus the General. Big supercar battle. That's for 3rd place. Here, though, is the 2nd placed AF Corse Ferrari of Alessandro Pierguidi. Kevin Estre is leading. LMP1 leader with the red light on the side, Kazuki Nakajima. LMP2 leader with one blue light on the side, G-Drive's Jean-Eric Verne. 92 leads in GTE Pro with one green light on the side. Kevin Estre just ahead of this battle, and leading in the AM class is still the Keating Motorsports Ford GT. So it's been a welcome arrival at Le Mans in the AM class, and it is a competitive arrival as well. 3 lights on the side of the Ford shows that Tincknell is currently in 3rd. But will he stay right at the end of the Porsche Curves and go down pit road? There's Jan Magnussen, Marcel Fessler. Disappointing end to the race for the 64 Corvette. No, Tincknell stays out, so another lap will go in the books for him, but he does owe us a stop compared to the other cars around him in the top 4 in GTE Pro. He's not the only one, though. It's only 3 of the top 4 who have made that 8th stop for fuel. And Davidson out of the pits. He pitted under full course yellow, or he was in the pits as the full course yellow came out. So Peter Dumbreck, let's just explain why that's a good thing. If you're in the pit lane, you go down the pit lane, get fueled, drive out the pit lane at 80 kilometers an hour. Normally everybody else is doing this. They're going down the straight at 180 miles an hour, not 80 kilometers an hour. But under full course yellow, they're only doing 80 kilometers an hour. So the amount that they gain while you're stationary is negligible compared to what it would be at racing speed.
You know, you can win and lose from that situation, but certainly Anthony Davidson seemed to win from it. And actually, Negrão also closed right back up on Verne again, whereas he was about 4 or 5 seconds down. So now he's only 0.6 of a second down. So, you know, these situations, it keeps the racing alive a little bit. It's quite good. And of course, in America, they have the system where they have the safety car, and they actually give the lap back to the
wave by on the lapped cars.
To the cars that have been lapped, and they suddenly can come back into the fight. That doesn't happen here, but it certainly spices things up a little bit.
Imagine trying to wave by a field at Le Mans behind a single safety car. It's not so easy with 60-plus cars. There's Nico Lapierre, ready to go out for Cinezec Alpine. They are currently second, but Andre Negrão right behind Jean-Eric Verne. We're now into LMP2 pit stop territory, and car 34 into Europol again being warned to fix their lights or turn on their rear lights. And the 98 Aston Martin, which has been the problem child in the AMR camp, very much as the number 10 is the problem child for Dragon Speed, that is back in the garage. That has had a catalogue of woes, the 98 AM-class Aston.
That's unusual, isn't it? That car normally runs really well around here. You know, they've led here.
You know why? This is what happens when you've decided to buy a new car. Your current car goes, oh, that's the way it is it? And starts dropping bits all over the road. Well, the 98 clearly knows it's being pensioned off at the end of this race, and its future is historic. Racing, that is.
Have a nice, clean, warm garage to sit in.
Yeah.
They may have, but somebody that's going to have a nice, warm LMP2 right behind him is Jean-Eric Vergne, because Negrão is catching quickly as Vergne's been held up in traffic, entry to the Porsche curves, and now it's allowed the 36 to catch right up. Here's his radio.
I confirm Fox English for drive and change, and I confirm G-Drive will stop with you.
Yeah.
Be careful for your stop.
G-Drive and Signatech have been on the same strategy since the word go. They weren't always at the front, but they've always stopped on the same lap. And because they've got basically the same engine, or they've got exactly the same engine, and the cars aren't that different, they can't get that extra advantage. Roberto Lacorte came in the middle of them in a Cetilar Villorba Corsa car that's in 15th place. Jakub Śmiechowski has also just come in front of them to get those lights fixed, and actually very likely because he needed fuel. Oh dear.
No, that's okay. It's just because of the positioning. I think the bigger problem for G-Drive is the fact that they're all together.
Yeah.
And so therefore they've definitely got a pullback. And so the G-Drive car is well, it's just a little bit
wobbly. Last time they stopped, the Villorba Corsa car was not between them. G-Drive pulled back, but that's 2, 3, 4 seconds lost.
5 seconds loss on a pullback, and it's about 3 on the when you do it from the front.
But the thing is, on the way into the pits, Negrão got really held back by that other car.
In the pit lane.
And the problem then is that he lost so much time because that other driver wasn't pushing anywhere near as hard as Jean-Eric Vergne was into the pits.
Well, we said that there was a 4.5 second difference between Vergne's in-lap and also Negrão's. And remember, Negrão was right up behind him as they came through the last part of Porsche. So he basically lost another 5 seconds.
And don't forget, Vergne stayed in, so it was fuel only. That was a short stop compared to... Cetilar are not going to make any friends, are they, doing stuff like that?
But fuel's 35 seconds, so therefore that would be an equal time for them both.
If they hadn't changed drivers and tyres on the Signatech car.
It's the same time, remember, you change the tyres, and the driver should be definitely in 35 seconds. Now the gap is up to 13.68 seconds. Last pit stop was 8 seconds longer. Different. Which a lot of it was just the running around.
Don't go too wide, exit turn 22, please. I didn't go wide, come on. Please calm down, Jose, calm down. And keep focused.
But telling a driver who's trying to win a championship and the Le Mans 24 Hours, please don't go wide,
is what you have to do if there's a penalty absorbed to it, or alternatively, it puts a lot of stress through the front drive shafts or the front suspension, and the car will not finish the race. And so therefore the driver does have to have a little bit of responsibility.
He's risking picking up a puncture off the edge of the road as well.
He's been off 3 times in the last half hour.
But then he said, I didn't go wide, come on. Well, please calm down. Well, no, hang on a minute, you've just accused me of doing something I didn't do. Please don't outbrake yourself is an entirely different argument.
Yeah, but you don't know what he did.
No, well, but the engineers probably don't either, because they've not got necessarily an onboard all night.
Yeah, they have got an onboard. The thing is, the engineers have got an onboard for them, so they sit there and watch the onboard and the data at the same time, and so the driver doesn't have very many areas to get away. As we are now on the onboard with a 67 Ford Chip Ganassi, Harry Tincknell running down, chasing down Puer Guidi. That's Puer Guidi up ahead of him, 6/10 up ahead of him, second place.
No one can accuse Harry Tincknell of not hitting his apex. That was...
Oh, was that him that hit the apex? Perfect thing.
But look how good those pictures are. It's almost pitch black outside. We're broadcasting this in 4K, and the clarity of the onboards just is absolutely breathtaking. Alessandro Pier Guidi being hunted by Harry Tincknell. They got into the car the same time. Their last stop was at the same time. And Harry Tincknell still giving chase in third place. Don't forget, that car has had a penalty as well for unsafe release in one of their pit stops early on.
But they did get that time lost back because of the safety car.
Yeah.
So it pulled, remember, the safety car pulled everybody all the way together again, top 9 in GTE Pro.
I heard Louise squeaking. Louise, I didn't get what you said. That sounded like a Toyota radio message. What were you saying?
I am with Andre Negrão, who's just come back, brought the car in. Now, that wasn't the best pit stop for you, was it?
No, it isn't. I lost some seconds behind the Cetilar car. In the end, I was really close to Van to park as close to him as possible to the pit stop.
Sorry, there was team radio happening at the same time. Okay, let's go again. Wasn't the best pit stop.
No, it didn't. I was so close to Van to park as close to him as possible to fight for the race. But then I catch Cetilar in the middle of the Porsche curve, so I have to back off a little bit, so I lost 6 seconds behind him.
Which is a lot during your battle.
Yeah, which is a lot for me. And now Lapierre is in the car, so new tires for him. Van he goes to the second stint, so it should be a little bit better for us, but should be close. It should be all night like this and all the end of the race as well.
At what point will you switch to nighttime tires?
We don't know yet. We just see because of the temperature. So when the temperature is going down a little bit more, we put the soft. So, but the moment we stay in this tires.
Now you've got a 4-point lead in the championship, so you still have everything to fight for the championship, and G-Drive aren't part of that. So what's more important?
For the moment, we want to keep fighting for the Le Mans and for the championship, but definitely if you see the G-Drive is going for some reason, we back up a little bit and ensure the championship for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice stuff, thank you, Louise. And Andre Negrão there sounding super excited, as you would imagine, having got back into you get back out into the pits after a battle like that, where your dander has been up and you're just rammed full of adrenaline. He won't be snoozing before he's back in the car, will he?
He had a good stint, you know. He was right up there with Verne in the end. He got caught out unluckily. But, you know, it is what it is, and you know, he's done a good job. Just to clarify as well, he's talking about the tyres. We're looking at the 91 battle now.
Yeah, on board with the Porsche.
But yeah, back to P2. He talked about moving to the softer tyre as it cools down. There's obviously a window of temperature for each tyre, and those windows should overlap, so that the soft and the medium you could use either at the same time. So I think probably on the next stint they might be thinking about the soft.
Just looking back from the Ford there at the 91 Porsche. In fact, that was the Ferrari going by. So we were with Jimmy Bruni chasing Davide Rigon. He's just gone by Ryan Briscoe into Mulsanne corner. So Davide Rigon has made our position up to 6th. And Ryan Briscoe now right in front of us as we sit with Jimmy Bruni. Yeah, and everybody, I mean, particularly that battle at the top, G-Drive with Dunlop, Signatech with Michelin, that switch over temperature is likely to be different for the two different tyre manufacturers.
Exactly, yeah.
I can tell you, I love GTE. Love these races all the way through the WEC season, through Le Mans at the beginning of this super season, and then again. They're just absolutely at it all the time. They're real street fighters.
And have you noticed that so far the GT drivers haven't been whinging on the radio about each other changing line and hogging the racing line? So it's been really, really hyper close.
That's because they haven't got enough breath to be able to do that, because they're hanging on and strapping it out.
That's a good shout. That's a good shout. Through past went Ant Davidson, who's third overall, third in LMP3. Now the gaps in LMP3, Jean-Eric Verne on older tyres, but familiar with them, has pulled away. He's now 14 seconds ahead of Nico Lapierre. And Nico was 15, is now only 12.9 seconds ahead of Anthony Davidson. Number 3, Rebellion, with a slightly longer stop. Thomas Laurent has gone back out, but he had some work to do on the lights. So, or he didn't, but the team did. on the illuminated panel on the side of the car.
Yeah, that's a legality. You've got to have your illuminated light. Basically, it shows the racing number on the side of the car illuminated at all times. And same with the leader lights as well, if they're there. And that can be a little bit of a scuff if you rub up against someone. It can damage it. As the leading Toyota of Nakajima comes into the pits for another pit stop. This will be the 11th pit stop for this car. 4 seconds ahead of Lopez as he pops into the pits.
So that means Lopez actually must have caught him up.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He's got it back.
Significantly. So Lopez now goes by into the lead. He'll stop next lap. The number 8 car stopped 1 lap earlier at the beginning of the race.
Nose change again.
Yeah, again, this will be yes, a setup of the aero. They adjust these cars on the fly, Alan, more than a NASCAR in changeable conditions. Was that the case as well when you were racing with the Audi? Were you constantly making these changes all the time?
Not quite as much, but now with the regulations where you can actually work on the car and fuel at the same time, it means that it is a benefit to do so. Otherwise, it would be about a 12-second negative, and you need to have quite a big aero balance shift to have a 12-second benefit over a stint or triple stint. And so therefore we didn't do it quite so much, but it's very obvious and logical that you basically change the whole nose or the whole tail of the car to shift the balance of the car as the track changes. And we've got to remember the track's changing massively through the course of time, because we've had hotter temperatures in the middle of the day. It's drizzled a little bit. Now it's getting much colder. There's more rubber going down in circuit, but at the same time it's also getting greasy and dirty in places with other people going off and dropping oil and bits and pieces like that.
Gravel, lots of gravel.
Yeah, and the problem is now we're starting to get to the area where we're getting into proper darkness, where you can't see that stuff in the road in front of you.
That's why you got lights. But here we are with Tinknell, just shining his lights on the pack of Pierre Guidi. And we're talking about that track temperature still nearly 22 degrees, 21.7. Air temperature 16, so it's reasonably warm, but nothing in comparison to what it was at the start of the race at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and definitely nothing like the temperatures were yesterday, where we had clear skies all morning. It was actually quite a warm afternoon, whereas we saw, not too long after the start of the race, all the fans wrapped up like it was Easter.
Ferrari gets off the corner quite well. Gotta say, it's got good torque out of the corner.
This is one of the joys, isn't it, of GT racing, in fact, of all sports car racing, as opposed to sort of single chassis formula, is that you get the different sights and sounds, but cars have different strengths and weaknesses. So some perform well on one kind of track, some perform better on a slightly different kind of track. But here at Le Mans, you see a lot of that from corner to corner.
Yes, you do. Well, you've got so many different corners and different variety of conditions as well, with you being a 24-hour race. But it's superb how close they all are, because we're talking now the first 5 cars within 14 seconds. And we've still got a fair old bit of scrapping to go. But this is the second place battle. Second place is Pierre Guidi up ahead, AF Corsa, and we're on board with Ford Chip Ganassi Team UK car of Harry Tinknell, where we were. However, got to say, just behind him, 1.5 seconds behind him is Garcia in the Corvette, and then 2.5 seconds behind him is Nick Tandy in the Porsche.
Again,
and they're both catching.
Yeah, that top 5 is the same cars, different drivers, same cars, and they're concertinaing back up again.
I think the issue Tinknell's got is he's not quite quick enough on the straights, much quicker in the corners. You see him catching up, and he's got a much better run through this section, but when it comes to leading out onto the Mulsanne straight, that's where he's going to struggle, and he's going to have to make a bit of a commitment to try to get past, to be able to use the speed over the lap that he has advantage, to have then a run up at Kevin Estre, who's still leading this race, but now 10 seconds up the road.
Let's hear from AF Corsa's Davide Rigon.
Davide, you just brought the 71 back in. You're running lower down the field on GT. How was it for you?
Yeah, we have just an issue in the beginning for the first stint of Sam. We have an issue with 2 tires, so we had to pit in the wrong moment, and we lose. Actually, we lose 1 pit now. So we arrive in a moment that we are in the same pit as the other. So we are there, but we are not on the same pit stop strategy. So let's see. I hope really my good engineer do some fantastic strategy to be back. The car is very strong, very good. Actually, I have no issue on the tires. Let's hope now Sam will be okay also for him and also for Miguel. Nothing, the pace is there, is very good, but as announced, it's very tight. It's a qualifying race.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Davide Regan talking about some problems there. Sam Bird had a couple of short stints where he only was able to do 10 laps in one of them, which was a few hours ago now. And then Miguel Molina jumped in the car, did 2 stints of 14 laps. Davide Regan, who Louise was just speaking to, 2 stints of 14 laps. And so it all relates back to the limited number of tyres they've got and the fact they had to therefore do a shorter stint at the beginning, which puts them out of sequence with everybody else. They'll be hoping that they can actually get back a little bit closer and another safety car brings them back into the window. Yeah. But that's something you're hoping for as opposed to being able to achieve very easily.
He did sum it up quite well there. It was a race of qualifying. In other words, every lap is a qualifying lap. They're really pushing the envelopes out there.
This is the 4th place car, SMP Racing's Mikel Alushin. And a driver change going on there. Now he took over. It must be a double stint for him because they're changing tyres, but no more than is it a triple?
He's done, Mikel Alushin's actually done 4 stints. I don't know on the tyre side of things, as now Franz Ferdinand are there on stage.
Well, there's no escape from the Scots this weekend, is there?
Well, we're trying to take over. We've tried to take over Le Mans a few times, and this is another one. If we can't do it on the track, we'll do it on the singing. But they're coming back to the on-track action then. Alushin has done 4 stints. Of roughly about 11-10 laps depending on the safety cars and things, but I'm not sure of the tyre strategy for it.
Vitaly Petrov took over the car from Mikel Alushin, so they're back with the driver who did the start of the race. Number 7 is in. This is the race leader, Jose Maria Lopez. Kazuki Nakajima will come by and retake the lead in number 8 Toyota. To shine that screen a bit, it's still very smeary, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I'm the only one who's not eating a more mouthful of Maltesers right now. So on board with Jose Maria Lopez, he stays in, so there'll be no tyres either going in there. This will be the start of a triple. We heard from Fernando Alonso a little while ago. He corrected us. We said, oh, you've just done a triple stint. Yeah, quadruple. Yeah, none of your lightweight mamby-pamby triples for me. So he did a quad stint early on before nighttime even arrived. So yeah. I wonder how long they're going to run when they do get into the cooler conditions in the middle of the night.
They'll not really run very much longer than that just because of the tyre strategy side of things. But the gap now is down to just an absolute smidgen. The 7 and the 8 are right close together.
Well, Louise, as you heard, the number 98 Aston has gone back out, so she'll try and catch up with Paul Howarth and see how far down the job list they've got with that car and what the latest catalogue of woes is, or latest page on the catalogue of woes. So that car down the tail of the field, the Dragon Speed number 10 car, not officially retired, but still malingering in the garage. Toyota lead from Toyota, SMP Racing 3rd and 4th, Rebellion 5th and 6th, and the number 8 car of Kazuki Nakajima with Jose Maria Lopez right behind him. So they're going in proper Formula 1 formation, aren't they? The quickest team, followed by the next team and the team after that. And the difference here is that Rebellion aren't necessarily only the 3rd fastest team, but so far the SMP Racing pair have had just one little issue, which was a sticky wheel nut for the 17 car, I think it was, in one of their pit stops, and that doesn't seem to have really cost them. And of course, Peter, two safety cars in quick succession have helped bunch up cars that were very close together anyway, as teammates tend to be.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, from our point of view, it's nice to see that kind of thing. The race gets tight again, and the GT race is incredibly tight. They're just nose to tail, it seems, and the only car that's breaking away, as they did last year, is the Porsche. The Estra Porsche is just 10 seconds ahead now of Pierre Guidi in the Ferrari.
Louise reporting from the Aston Martin garage. She was going to go and find word from Paul Howarth about what they've done to the 98 car. However, they are all listening on their headsets and shaking their heads. The 98 car has left the garage, but apparently not in very good health. Team manager of car number 3, the number 3 Rebellion, again being asked to attend the race director's office. That's the second time that has happened. Thomas Laurent had his incident earlier on, wiped the nose off the car, back up into 5th position. I wonder what the race director wants to talk about. There's a great overhead view of the Porsche curves.
Yellow flag at the run from the second chicane down towards Mulsanne. That's the reason for it. Don't know who or what 98. It is the 98 Aston Martin that Louise was giving us the information on. It definitely isn't right, because it's stuck there at the kink.
Smoking out the bonnet there.
Oh dear. Oh, that is significantly smoking, isn't it? Now let's see what we can see underneath it. It doesn't look to have left a trail of oil, but the chances are, if there's that much oil smoke coming out from under the bonnet, it has left a trail of oil somewhere through the chicane. So that's the second chicane. As you saw, he's over on driver's right, just out of the chicane, so they can push him back.
Yeah, Pedro Lami's known that this was pretty much game over and parked at the right appropriate point. At each entrance is on the barrier, there is reflective red paint, and you see it, and that's when you know that there's an opening. And so therefore, if you've got a pretty terminal problem, then you pull there and they can pull you in. So this won't require any full course yellow or anything like that.
I would imagine Pedro Lami's feeling right now is, yeah, let's just call time on this now. It's never nice just touring around when you're a front-running car, when you normally are a front-running car. And yeah, normally they are in the fight for the win in GTM, but today has not been their day.
Well, you know, for every time you're a winner, there's a lot more times in motor racing when you're a loser. Generally, motor racing is a series of disappointments with very occasional excitement in the middle. To almost praise see Ron Dennis. Looking down on our Toyotas that lead the race here, and they're going through. Have they just passed the Ferrari Ford battle? So that was Sam Bird chasing Dirk Muller down into Indianapolis. And here they come. That's the second and third place cars. Alessandro Pierre Guidi, Harry Tinknell. Well, Corvette's right there as well. We've jumped ahead because the Corvette was in there as well, and there's only one of them.
Yeah, so that was Sunbird some way back on Dirk Muller.
Yeah, so the leaders are coming up behind these guys. Césaire Villorba-Corsa car getting in the middle of it, that LMP2 machine. See how it's lighter weight and roughly equivalent horsepower to the GT cars, fires it off the corner quicker.
Pierre Guidi's just holding Harry Tinknell at bay there. He just seems to have the legs on him. Harry can't seem to do anything to close up and you know, put a pass on him, so he just has to sit there.
He is, but they're both catching very, very slightly. I think mainly traffic related on Kevin Estra, who's leading. He was 11 and a bit seconds up the road. Now it's 9.5 seconds. As some of the four guys start to try and get a little bit of rest. Nope, woken up. You're on candid camera.
Meanwhile, behind Antonio Garcia is eking into their lead as well. He's just 4 seconds behind Harry Tinknell now. No, he's not. He's 1 second behind.
Yeah. Closed right in, hasn't he, in the last few laps.
4 seconds behind him is Nick Tandy.
Yeah. And again, that little battle moving up ever closer. Ryan Briscoe, Dirk Muller, going up with them. And then there's the gap back to the next group, led by Sam Bird's Ferrari. Sam Bird ahead of Mathieu Jaminet, who... Mathieu Jaminet in the 10th place Porsche, the 94 American crew car, has got Martin Tomczyk and Olivier Plat behind him within a second and a half, covering the three of them. Then 12 seconds back, Antonio Felix da Costa in the second BMW. The two Aston Martins and Risi Competizione are at the tail end of the GTE Pro field.
One thing I learned when we were off air was I didn't even realize coming into this race that Aston Martin had received a BOP before the race, and hence their pace has been seriously affected.
Well, not necessarily all down to BOP,
no,
but...
No, it's not, but I certainly don't think it's helped them.
It's not helped them, but I think their biggest problem is that they're not able to keep the tyre life on the car for the duration that's needed. The single stinting is one thing, the double stinting, which they all have to do with a limited number of tyres, that's where I think they really struggle. If we think back to even the start, Nicky Team's second stint was really where the times were starting to drop off, and it was shown there.
What Aston Martin needed was 12 hours, the sort of weather we had Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, because they were good in the wet throughout the World Endurance Championship Super Season. But unfortunately in the dry, as Alan says, keeping the life in the tyre. And Corvette struggled with that with the 64 car as well. They said quite plainly that into the second stint, you get to the stage where suddenly the performance is really starting to go away. And of course, then the car's sliding more, it's starting to lock wheels under braking, and that hurts the tyres even further. It's a vicious spiral.
Doesn't seem to be affecting the Porsche and Ferrari quite so badly, and even the Ford has moved up a fair bit as well. So in fact, all three Fords.
Sorry, I think that's the Ford defending off Garcia as well. Harry Tincknell was on the inside, and I was a bit confused why, and it's because Garcia is right on him now, and Garcia's right there, and then there's 3 seconds behind to Tandy. And so now Ford, instead of looking ahead to overtake to go into second, are actually looking to try to make sure they keep their third place right now. On the left-hand side lights, that is the Ford, and then the ones behind it, Garcia and the Corvette.
And in fact, what helped close Harry Tincknell up into Garcia was they caught Sergio Pianezzola. That Ferrari there, that's an AM-class Ferrari. It was ahead of Harry Tincknell into the last chicane, and Tincknell lost ground, and so suddenly Garcia, now he can sniff a pass and a move up back into third place.
He's looking round the outside all the way down, another little kink going through, and he's side by side.
Fantastic stuff. The lights in front of this battle. It's Alessandro Pierguidi and
it's the standard move down into Indianapolis round the outside again. We've seen that a lot in this race.
Fantastic stuff.
I think the GT cars have to drag each other so much. It's one of the few places that can actually get the job done.
Yeah. But it's every time you look at it, you go, oh, that is still a hugely ballsy move, and it is every time they do it. But it's one that you can only do if you've got utter faith in the guy inside you who's not going to touch you, because you're going to have a big one if he does.
Well, yeah, the one thing you can't see from the camera angle so well is that both those corners in Indianapolis are fairly banked over, hence the name. And yeah, that's quite a big benefit, and it's probably my favourite corner on the track. It's so much fun going through there.
Alan placing his order for coffee. Blue flags are waving here, and blue lights are showing as well. Little battle coming up behind this squabble for third in the GTE Pro class. Do you know, actually, if you are a market analyst of some kind working for Toyota, and you sit down and look at how many minutes they've had on air compared to all the GT manufacturers, you're going to go, guys, stop messing around with this LMP1 nonsense and get into GT. Get yourself some TV coverage.
Pound for pound on the money Toyota are spending on this race, yeah.
But through no fault of their own, they can't be held responsible for the fact that they're the only hybrid manufacturer who has stayed in the series, and they have confirmed already that they will be entering the TS050 into Season 8. But then, things will change. Going into season 9 of World Endurance Championship, they've committed to hypercars. Aston Martin has committed to hypercars. And there will hopefully be more manufacturers coming along as well. And those will look, well, the intention is that they will look like super duper GT cars. These GT cars are road supercars. The hypercars, the next thing, like the Aston Martin, those are going to look even more extreme, and the idea is that those cars will be lapping at pretty much 3 minutes 30 per lap now, as a minimum. So 3 minutes 30 or faster is the intention.
Yeah.
So not far off what a front-running LMP1 hybrid lap time is now.
Of course, the GT car, what kind of horsepower are we talking about? Maybe 500, 400 to 500. But the hypercars are going to have more like 1,000 horsepower. So there'll be a lot of gains down the straights.
1,000's a good number. I like it. I don't like the number 1,000.
In fact, the guidelines are they're going to weigh 1,100 kilos. It'll be 550 kilowatts, roughly 750 horsepower. They're kind of broad brushstrokes, the outlines at the moment, because, well, the Valkyrie's not completed. Toyota's hypercar isn't completed. None of the others that might compete are actually completed. So the idea is to have as broad a church as possible. You can either start with a road car and adapt it for racing, in the words of Aston Martin's Andy Palmer, by detuning it, or you can start with a prototype chassis and either a production engine or a full-bred race engine, and then clothe it to have the body you like. So that's why it's called Le Mans Prototype Hypercars. It can be a purebred racing machine or a development of an extreme road car, and they will balance and equalize the performance between the two different approaches.
Well, I think it's a wise move. I think people can relate maybe a little bit more to watching cars that look like the ones on the road go around. Yeah. And, well, you can see the battle the GT cars are having at the moment and how much fun this is. And
I think you're absolutely right. I think people can imagine, in fact, there are people in the stands now watching who own Ford GTs, both the original one from 2005 and the current one. And so they can't just imagine that they might drive it. Some of the fans here actually do drive them. And it will be the same with the Valkyrie. Some people who own a Valkyrie will be watching Valkyries racing on television.
Well, they've sold 150, which are yet to be produced, but 150 will be out there.
However, watching a Le Mans prototype, LMP1 or LMP2 or LMP3, you know you're never going to drive one because you're not a racing driver. You know you're never going to drive one on the street. You're never going to see one on the streets of London or New York or, well, maybe LA, maybe Tokyo, because they love that kind of thing. But, okay, these are road cars. They're not, I mean, they're racing cars, but there is a road car base there. You can drive an M8, you can drive a Ford GT, you can drive a Porsche, you can drive a Ferrari, but nobody's going to go out and buy an LMP2 or an LMP1 car. And so there is still that more human link with the GT racing. And I think, you know, for all the fact that prototype racing has been fabulous, you think in the 956, 962 Group C era, you know, those weren't road cars by any stretch. Your era of GT1, you and Al, in the Mercedes and the Porsches, they weren't road cars by any stretch, even though they were, quote, road cars.
Yeah. I drove it in the road.
Yeah, he drove it in the trees. That doesn't make them a road car, and doesn't make them an off-road car either. But the GT generation is actually derived from road car base, and that's still what makes it more relatable. Heading towards 16 hours of the race remaining. We're nearly 8 hours in. Are we nearly done? We would be if we were in Sebring. We'd be getting very close. However, we're barely at 1/3 distance here at Le Mans, the final race of Super Season, the super finale. And our GT battle again hits pit road. Jimmy Bruni in the car that is now in 8th place for Porsche, the 91 car. And there are a couple of LMP2 pit stops as well. A couple of other GT cars coming in. That's the 81 BMW of Philippe Eng has just left. Olivier Pla has just left in a 66 Ford. And this is Richard Leitz, who's taken over from Jimmy Bruni in 91. Now, this car was in that top 10 train when they were all together. However, it's now been repassed by 83, Raoul Frey, in the Kessel Racing AM class Ferrari that he passed a couple of laps ago. And he has just been repassed after he stopped. Roberto Gonzalez has taken over the Dragon Speed.
I had no bite in zone 14, it was very dangerous. So, Jose, what do you mean by no bite on the brakes? I just saw that the fuel can be smaller. I braked in zone 14, I had no bite at all. Okay, copy.
Was that no bite on the tires or no bite on the brakes?
No bite on the brakes.
Yeah, no bite in the brakes, but the fuel cut, basically they've got a fuel cut, so they manage the energy all the way around the circuit. And when it gets less, then naturally to slow the car down to the same speed, you would have to brake more. And that's why there was the request. Is it because of the fuel cut getting less, then you need to slow the car down more on the brakes? So there's a bit of discussion there. But it sounds like for whatever reason, then Pachito can't get the car stopped with the confidence that he would normally want to.
And he's losing time to Nakajima now, 10 seconds up the road.
Paul Di Resta has just taken over the number 22 United Autosports car, which allows Louise Beckett to say, hot dog, jumping frog, it's Albuquerque.
Philip Albuquerque has just brought the number 22 in 6th place. How is it for you out there and what can you do?
Well, we're doing quite a good race, trouble-free. Unfortunately, we are lacking a little bit of pace to the guys in front. I think we can wish P3, but the guys in front, 5th, 4th, and 3rd, a little bit quicker than us. We are doing our best, but you know, but still we are having fun driving the night, and it's still a long night coming on. You know, a lot of traps coming up, and we could see already some mistakes from other drivers. So we're going to rely on that.
And just a belated happy birthday. As you just said to me, it's tradition for you to celebrate it here.
Yeah, it is. It's my 6th time that I do my birthday in Le Mans, and unfortunately it's away from the family, but maybe next year I bring the family like this. It's the only time that I can spend my birthday with them, but it's a good sign, right? And I expect to do 10 more years in here, my birthday.
As long as you don't eat all of the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but I will burn it, so it's fine.
Okay, speak to you later.
Thank you.
Yeah, funnily enough, that's the excuse that we all use when we're getting that extra bit of dessert with ice cream. So Felipe Albuquerque again spending his weekend doing what racing drivers love best. Now let's talk a little bit. Oh, Felipe Albuquerque has been had a drive-through offered to him for overtaking under the safety car with the number 22 car. Looking through the...
They've already served that.
Bulletins.
They served that about 9:30 this evening, local time.
Well, that is the... Al was sending me to look on the timing screen for bulletins, and bulletin number 93, the driver of car number 64, Corvette Racing, Marcel Fessler, facts causing a collision with car 88 at turn 26, and the decision is a fine of €7,000 and withdraw of 6 penalty points. So Marcel Fessler has been held responsible by the stewards for the incident.
I think it was pretty fair to say that the car behind caused the crash. You could argue, I'm sure, about the severity of the penalty, but anyway, it doesn't change the result of it, that's for sure. As you saw there was a pit stop for 1st and 2nd place in LMP2 with the G-Drive car with Jean-Éric Vergne at the wheel, popping in and getting back out of the pits ahead of Nicolas Lapierre in the Signatech. Here we'll go back into the battle for 2nd place, where we've got Puer, Guidi and Garcia, and then Tinknell all in a line, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. And it looks like Tinknell got a good run off the corner there, but the Corvette's just stretching its legs.
That American muscle, yeah, it's just pulling away out of the corner. So as we said, yeah, the Ford seems to be real nippy in the corners, but it just doesn't have the gas out of the corners, and the Ferrari also was a bit stronger. So the Ferrari and the Corvette quite evenly matched. But now, is the Corvette going around the standard move? Garcia must have pulled that move about 5 times already in this race.
Yeah, there's a bit of torque in that V8 muscle. There's no question about it.
Talking about V8 muscle from America, got Jim Roller back.
Yeah, but all mine's between my ears, unfortunately.
Yeah, Harry, I'm going to change tyre strategy. You'll go on your first set of used.